7 minutes in.
The mayor, excuse me, the mayor's running a little late today, so I'm gonna open up the,
Right, late. He's coming here, he's running late.
he's coming in.
Okay.
I guess he is now. So anyway, I'll open up the work session so we can start. We're all here. Fire away. I guess I got one thing that's, I hear this probably 100 times since I've been here. Our sound system could be a lot better. I know I hear this constantly, people, they try to listen to the meetings, they can't hear people at the podium, or they can't hear us, or whoever.
Yeah, we're working on that with our IT providers, and so we might be coming to pay that bill if we get a quote here. We are working on that.
Great.
I think it's great, because it's an older
Well,
system.
Yeah, I don't think it was new when I started.
Yeah, it was, well, some of it was new, I'm sorry. This thing that jiggers out here was new, but the microphones weren't. So, yeah, we're working on
That's
it.
good to know.
We're glad we- Especially when we get what the quote is.
Anyone else have something? Yeah, I could go for the whole hour. Sound system. That's
Oh,
just
so-
getting something that works. Yeah, people are can't hear what's the other.
There's one microphone that picks it up.
Anyway. Yeah, far away, Dave.
Where are we, Dave? I know that we wanted to talk about, myself and Jake wanted to talk about the progress for districting. And I didn't know, Jake, did you have anything you wanted to talk about with that?
I know there's a thread of emails regarding districting. I remember our conversation from February, our special meeting regarding districting, having the committee meeting, or setting the committee and having a draft proposal to us in November. I didn't want to lose track of that. And I know we're going in the summer, I know we've got a bunch of other items to discuss. But I want to make sure we had a plan in place for that. I think my question in the thread ultimately was, are we considering reestablishing the committee, or are we looking at the proposals and making amendments? I guess that's the question for council for next steps.
So is anything, when we were thinking about the redistricting in those two steps that you're outlining, was there any need for us to just completely get rid of the older version that had gone through and we said no to?
We never said no to it. So we never voted on it.
Okay, so we never, however you want to characterize it. Is there something to keeping that and, or just restarting the whole process?
Well, we have two pathways forward, according to Jeffrey Weiss, when he was on that live stream on that special meeting. That we could put the redistricting up for vote, we could vote it down and submit amendments to it. Which would mean that as a group, we would need to decide what those amendments are, what they look like. We could recreate the redistricting committee with new members. You made it clear, we can appoint people to that and task them with doing it again. I would say this, when we had that special meeting with Jeffrey Weiss, present by Zoom meeting, we did not know that even though the resolution stated that the meetings were subject to open meetings law, they were never published and they were not available for the public to attend. So the resolution said Those meetings were subject to open meetings law. They were not, in fact, they were not advertised, and the public wasn't allowed to attend. And that was the information that we had the night that we had that meeting, that special meeting. So I think the council needs to decide which direction they want to take. Do they want the local law submitted and vote it down and submit amendments, or do we reconstruct a new committee and task them with the job? Now, I think either pathway is fine, but if we want to keep it as impartial as possible, although even with a follow-up vote, if we decided we were going to reconstruct the committee and they submit redistricting to us, and we still have amendments, we have the right to do that. Legally, we can still do that. But knowing what we know now, I think that would probably be the better pathway forward. We also know that there's no urgency to it, because we know we did not want anything to interfere with the election in this cycle. There's just too much happening right now in this election cycle, and that we had agreed to do something after the November election, so it does not interfere in with this election, and that the Board of Election has plenty of time to put things into place for the next election cycle of 2025. I think it would be a good idea to put together a committee of 5 people, whatever construction we think that should look like, or I'm just picking an arbitrary number, because the more people you have in a committee that have served on government committees, not just the committees of, like public safety or MLT, but when you start working on committees outside of your normal work, it's harder and harder to coordinate schedules, and the more people you have, the harder it is to get anything done, because you can't meet on a regular basis. But I think that we do need better representation of all parties on the new committee, if that's the direction that that's the council. Yeah, and I think if that's the direction council wants to go in, I think that's what it should look like.
Well, I can help you out there. The last redistricting group they had, the Republican Party was represented, the Democratic Party was represented, and the Independents were represented, which would include no party, Independence Party, or whatever. Like it or not, these are political decisions, how the lines get drawn, and from all the lawsuits I've seen throughout the country, it's always due to the dispersion of the different parties, because really that makes a difference. You could put almost all of one party in one ward or whatever to make it so that one party would have an advantage. I don't see that happening here, but to avoid any impression of not being correct, every group should be represented, and they were in the last committee, or redistricting committee. It was in public. The council had a liaison that was there to help with, if necessary, but mostly to bring information back to the council. And it worked very well. Everyone was real pleased with how it turned out. There was good input from all people involved. And it was done in public. So I think, speaking to Councilor Gibbs, thinks these should be public meetings. They should represent every party in the city. And I don't know if you would need any other people besides that, but I think that's the only clear way to go to make it fully representative.
So, excuse me, I'd like to make a suggestion then. I'm super busy with winding up my school year. Why don't we make a firm commitment that we will decide on our course of pathway first meeting of July? Seem acceptable?
What?
First meeting of July. Let's set a course, decide, and then put the wheels into motion. What do you think of that? In other words, deciding what direction we want to go in, and then just
Okay,
make
We're
the
deciding to decide.
okay, we just decide now.
because we would need to find people.
Well, I mean, can we decide a course of action now?
Absolutely, we
Can we move to basically decide that we're going to get a new committee together and
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I'm just saying,
That's whatever you want.
I'm just saying for now until the end of June.
Okay,
I don't have
I know, that's
extra
fine,
time.
as long as we
dedicated to that, But
can,
I could, going into this.
yeah, I'll say like Jacob, I just don't want this to get lost. I think it's, it's something that was, lost before and it should be. So if we have a plan to come together in July and get this thing, I think that's the best path forward.
So let's,
What do you think, Jacob? Is that?
Yeah, I think at this point, I don't think we need a new committee, but that seems to be the direction that everyone's in favor of. So I say by July, first week in July, reestablish a committee and have a due date for first proposal of amended maps to council in November for discussion.
no, wait. We gotta decide on what the course of action is. Are we going to stick with the committee we have, submit the map as existed so we can vote up or down? We never voted on it. And submit amendments, or are we gonna recreate a new committee and let them do the work without us involved? I think that would be the better way to go.
Right, and I'm
I
summarizing.
think that's a good way to go, is if you make a new committee, so is that what we're gonna do in July then?
Yeah, we can work on it in
Okay, well,
July.
let's do that.
Then doesn't that get rid of the work that's already been done?
Well, the work still exists. Even though we didn't vote on it, the work still exists. It's still a document that can be handed over to a new committee. And then they can look at it and move forward.
Why not just put the people that were on that committee before and have them?
Because it wasn't fully represented.
It was not representative of all.
That's what we're saying.
But you can add to that.
Well, that's what the whole,
That's what we're saying.
that's what establishing the committee would be adding, to make sure that it was well represented by all parties.
Okay, just the way you're saying it, just sounds like taking new people and doing it. That's
Not necessarily, I don't think, it's just getting other folks involved so that there's a full representation of all parties.
yeah, I'm agreeable with that.
So July then?
Yes, I think that's.
I think that's good.
Because we don't want to approve of redistricting before the election. I think you might get into legal problems.
No, I agree with that.
If you change which they will change.
Right.
The boundaries, I don't know where that leaves.
I just want to move the ball forward.
Yes.
Make sure that it's not gonna get lost in the weeds. So cool. July then? Awesome.
Who is doing the water and wastewater now? Who's reporting?
Mr. Salinger, and then Janelle. Mike is essentially the director or department head for water treatment sourcing. Water distribution is a partnership between water treatment and Department of Public Works. Janelle Henry is the assistant environmental manager. Was promoted in April-ish. Yeah, it was early on this year. So she's the assistant environmental manager who's overseeing the majority of the operations, but also primarily overseeing water resource recovery. Janelle is not here tonight.
Oh, I was just wondering what was going on at Westbrook. But I'll save that question for you.
You could ask, Michael here, who's here, can answer that question.
Yeah, I know we don't use that water source very often, but I guess this is to keep it fully operational, like on the rate tractor.
We do use it. It's, I don't know, we probably use it, I'd say we're about 80-20 out of need and 20% out of Westbrook. So we do use it. If we switch fully to wells, then that's probably gonna be our main reservoir that we use for extra water and redundancy.
Okay, this was just one of those. I know we talked about blending the water sources last time. Okay. So that would be where we would draw the blended water from.
Depending on the direction we go after our wells.
Thank you very much.
We'll point to the item that was added at the last minute. I do apologize. It did come to me early this week, after the agenda has been sent out. And otherwise, we would have postponed it or pushed it up for the travel request for the training, for police training. But it's a rare course that's offered, so I wanted to provide the opportunity for this officer to attend course.
Can we, get an update on the body cameras? I know there was an article in the paper, I think it was this week. I was wondering if we could get a full update from you, Jane.
The general order is still, we did make some updates to that, some changes to it. The one that I did send with to the union has not come back yet. So this was I've already discussed with the president. So we're going back to them to send their council.
I'm sorry, just go back to them.
That's me going back to the union for them to send their council for review. Training is being set hopefully for the end of next month.
And is that going to be, I don't know if this is something we've talked about before, so training for this, is this going to be in addition to their workday, or is this training going to be done in the workday? How is that going to
So as
work?
part of their workday, during the month, we have, they work 12-hour shifts throughout the month. They also have a 10 and a 6-hour shift. And we utilize the 6-hour shifts, we can move around with enough time, have everybody work a 6-hour shift, and then get their regular day off that they would normally work that. We use it for the Lake Range a couple times a year. We're also utilize it for this and for taser research.
How long is the training going to take?
Should take 2 days. There might be some stragglers that will have to make up on their shifts, but it should be done in 2 days.
Is there a policy that you're developing for redaction when it comes to footage that's released to the public?
There isn't a policy on that. We don't have the software to do the redaction.
You don't have the software?
We didn't buy the software. The files are done through the city clerk.
Right.
So it would be done through the city clerk.
So the city clerk would be in charge of redacting?
That's my belief, yes. It would go through that and then come to us for review on stuff that was redacted or not redacted.
I see. And there's no policy about what gets redacted and what doesn't?
Nothing yet, no.
Okay, is that something that's going to be developed?
We'd have to get together with Sylvia.
Okay.
When do you anticipate the general order being completed? Ballpark, end of June?
I would hope by the training, if not soon after.
So is it possible to get a redaction policy in place before the cameras are, put into play?
I would hope so.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely with that.
Yeah, to be clear, there's a bit of a line of control, if you will, for redaction versus providing information via FOIL. The information via FOIL goes to, the request comes to the clerk's office, clerk sends that out generally to department heads, and department heads have to provide the information if it exists. At that point, Sylvia, by law, but depending on what can and cannot be redacted, does that work. It's not work that's typically done by the individual departments.
Okay.
Yes. Now, there's recommendations because there might be an open investigation, an open case that the police department may say, hey, heads up, this is an open case. This information should not be released because it's an active investigation. And then that's taken into account, or at least under consideration.
Okay.
I know, I just have one comment, one question.
Sure.
It seems like there's a little more traffic control out there the last few weeks. Is that by accident or is?
No, the pro lieutenant has been trying to do active enforcement details on every shift.
every morning for school buses and regular traffic red lights. So just trying to be a little more active. We couldn't fund an actual specific traffic car, so we kept pushing other details.
Oh, very,
I'm glad you noticed it.
yeah, well, still so many people running red lights and stop signs. I know sometimes it's accidental, but sometimes it's, oh my goodness. Anyway, that's good, thanks.
Thanks.
So I see we have a report regarding registrations of the short-term rentals for them. I see Joe here. So just wondering how that is progressing, how easy or difficult were the challenges of registering those short-term rentals? You could just give us an update on that part.
I haven't real looked at it. It's difficult to locate all the short-term rentals because you have to search through all these sites to try to find them. We do have, how many do we have? 20? We have 20-something registered already, and we're constantly looking for more.
And how's the process going?
It's one time. It's like I said, it's just difficult to locate, and then once we locate it, we have that much as well.
Okay.
It's right up front here.
I had a question, and I see we were running into counselor fees. Could you give us a little rundown on
Yeah.
why we?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so last year, it was anticipated, let me see, the budget year 2023, with the number of items that would be litigated, crime, for example, and that work, it was assumed that a lot of that, work was gonna tailor down or settle down, which it has, but, this is an increase for labor, considering there have been a number of, labor concerns above and beyond what was anticipated, that have taken up a majority of that pay. So there's an increase from contingency. It is essentially budget neutral at this point, does not tap into the general fund, it comes out of contingency.
So there's a combination of things.
Essentially, yes. Labor related,
Contract.
primarily the contract and a handful of labor concerns. One of which I shared with you all confidentially.
Can we get an explanation about 7.110, the reason behind canceling the taxing?
Yeah, I will let Dean explain it. I could try to explain it, but it'd be a little bit lengthier than.
So these are two properties that the city completed an in-grant tax foreclosure on, so the city.
In rent?
In-grant, Latin term, just based on the property, based on the lack of payment of real property taxes. The city completed that process, took title to these two parcels, and now own these two parcels. In the past, there would have been a push to sell these as quickly as possible at public auction. But you may recall there was some change or upheaval in the process based on the Supreme Court decision a year or two ago. And that led to New York State revising its own statute because previously the city would retain all of the proceeds from those tax foreclosure sales. Currently, the city is not permitted, there are some exceptions to the rule, but generally it's not permitted to retain all the proceeds. We can retain our costs, but not the excess profits that we may have realized after that sale. So because we're in the process of reformatting, New York State is, and then the city will be reformatting its code, we are not intending to pursue the auction of these properties, at least for a couple months, if not longer. So because of our system of Chamberlain being the tax enforcement entity, we repay the school district for taxes that are unpaid. In this case, these aren't publicly accessible properties, so there's no waiver of taxation based on an exemption rather. They're essentially taxable properties where the city is going to be reimbursing the school district. So the strategy here is to temporarily remove them from the tax rolls so that we're not reimbursing the school. And then if and when, as soon as possible, they go back on the tax rolls, we can reverse this with a simple action.
What is the dollar amount of what we would owe to the school on,
I don't have the number.
School and county together would cost the taxpayers $5,000 at this year's rates,
per property or total?
together.
So that's the total. Total.
Both properties together, school tax and county tax combined for both would be $5,000 at the current tax rates. So that's what we're saving the taxpayers by taking these things off the tax roll and getting the exemption for the city.
Well, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't sell the property, cut our losses, and let somebody else worry about the taxes. We can get our money back on the back taxes and really don't care about making a profit. We really need to move these properties back into the private sector. I don't know why we wouldn't do that.
There are some significant issues with both properties right now. One has extensive personal property details that we have to take care of. It could take months. Trying to locate next of kins for possession of personal property. We're going through 2 safes of information to determine how that can be distributed, and we're searching for names. It's significant. There's 3 automobiles, a boat, a truck, and significant amount of material inside the house. That's a fairly significant value that we have to determine who it should go to. So that's going to take some time.
Shouldn't we have been doing that very long?
No, we weren't in possession of the property.
Until when?
April 29th.
So it's only been this long.
So, so I don't know if Richard, Dean, I'm not sure who answers this question. If we voted not to withdraw our foreclosure proceedings and, I guess I should frame it this way. The property that you're referencing that has these other added, items on the property, is the concern or the issue that, it isn't just the house that we're dealing with, but we're also dealing with other, like what you said, vehicles, boats, and we don't know who next of kin is, and does this complicate further the foreclosure process?
No, the foreclosure process has been completed. Now that we've taken title, in the normal course of business, we take an image, we secure the properties, and take an inventory of any potential personal property, which is separate than real property. Once we take possession of personal property, the concept of lawful bailment, where we need to take reasonable efforts to locate the true or potential owner of that personal property. The law is, part of the reasonable standard, which is there's no set date or time, depends on the circumstance.
Who would be responsible for that? Finding the owners of these other pieces of.
So we're in possession, so it's us. So think of it when you leave your car at a valet or parking lot, they're in possession of your vehicle, so they have certain responsibilities to keep your vehicle safe, or reasonable measures to not leave the doors open or the windows open. Similarly, we're in possession of this property. We're now taking steps to find its true owner under New York State law, and if those efforts, or if we can prove we have diligently searched for those proper owners and provided them notice if they exist, to satisfy that duty, and they have a reasonable opportunity to retrieve that property. If they don't retrieve it within a reasonable time, and again, I keep saying that not to sound lawyerly, but because that's the standard, then we may dispose of it as we see fit.
So what office takes care of that? Is it your office?
It's a collaboration, typically myself and the Chamberlain's office.
So it'd be the Chamberlain's office that would put the work into locating.
Yeah, in conjunction with Dean's office, because he does legal search issues, contacts lawyers. We're looking for next of kin. We're searching through legal documents. We've taken possession of valuable property that's locked up in our office downstairs. It's part of the process. This is the worst one that I've seen since I've been doing this since 2007, where there's personal property of value where we really have to be concerned about what we do with it. Most of the time, the places that are just walked away from have not much more than junk inside. And, you know, you get the snow shovel and the barrels and just clear it out. And whoever is buying it at auction has no problem with that. But this is a different issue with this one.
And are we looking at weeks or months? How long?
We don't know, so they, if we want to, we're gonna spend $5,000 this year for the first school, and then ongoing, we'll do that.
Both these properties have that same situation?
Do both properties have the same situation, Richard?
No, the other one is more of a problem whether we decide to tear it down, level it, because it's in really rough shape. It's been left to rot, actually. You know, the roof has leaks and the property has a lot of black mold. It's like, one recommendation I was making is take one of our contractors that we've worked with downtown on developments and have them take a look at it and give us, you know, a fair assessment of what do you think would be the best use for this? And I think, in my opinion, they're gonna say demolish it and then let somebody buy the
By the lot?
Yeah. But we should look into that too and take a concerned look at what to do with that property. So that's why just removing these tax lien potentials to hit right away saves the taxpayers the $5,000 and it gives us the opportunity to take a look what to do with these properties, how to take care of it.
Unfortunately, what I've seen in the past is these things languish for long periods of time. You know, once the pressure's off, they get rid of these places. It seems like they sit for extended periods of time.
Well, you're looking at one example. I know 15 Couch Street comes to mind, but, you know, these can go much quicker than that. And they will.
I'm hoping so. We have
they will.
enough,
We just have to go through the due diligence for the personal property and then one residence, because it's significant. And then also, I think the best thing to do is have somebody take a look at the other one and say, what's the best use? What do you think? I don't believe anybody's gonna want to buy it, even at auction. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, it's not a real big lot.
No,
If I'm thinking about the same place you are.
yeah, and the building is just rotting. It's a shame.
Is that the one on South Peru?
Yeah, 150 South Peru. It was in bad shape 5 years ago when the owner offered it to Plattsburgh Housing Authority, offered it for sale to them, and they said, no, thanks. They thought it was a tear down 5 years ago, and it's worse of a tear down today.
So what's the difference between these properties and 206 Oval and how we treat them?
Volume.
What's that?
Volume, the amount of exposure that we have. So that's, I don't remember the square footage, we're talking tens of thousands of square feet for this oval versus single family, two family residence. The exposure is much smaller.
When you say exposure, you mean financial risk for the city?
The tear down cost versus the potential resale value once the property's been torn down or cleaned up.
And that's the only difference?
There's some historic, you know, the port management agreement, the airports and the ship office applies to the 206 global property, whereas the property is part of the non historic properties. So there's other on the ground differences, but the primary difference is the size and scale of 206 years old.
A lot of people look at 206 as being historic.
No, I get that, yeah.
Well, I'm on the fence with this one, about whether or not to remove it. Like, I don't know. I like the idea of taking action on the properties, but I understand the reasons why this is being brought before us.
It's to save the taxpayers the $5,000 immediately.
And again, we are taking action. It is gonna take a little bit longer due to the personal effects I have left behind.
And we lose money the longer it just stays off the tax roll.
Right, that's the downside.
Yeah. So you're saving tax money, but you're losing out on getting to the new owner paying taxes, extending that. Anyway. I'm on the fence too.
Captain Mitchell, I should have asked you this when you were up there and I didn't, and I really do apologize, but chalk it up to extra exercise. I don't know. If you stand up, or you can sit there, it doesn't matter. This is just a question about little motorbikes on the road. I need a level of what's legal to be on the street, what's not, I want to know, because I have people on my street knocking on my door, telling me, you know, Julie, look at these things going up and down. I mean, I don't know what's allowed.
You talking about the electric bicycles?
No, they look like little motorbikes. They
Yeah,
look
it's
like-
electric, I know what you're talking
They look
about.
like little motorcycles.
They're electric.
motorbikes.
If they're gas operated motorbikes, they can't be on the street.
So,
They
How
have
about
to-
the sidewalk?
no,
They can be on the sidewalk, private property is can't be on.
So the bicycles are acceptable, correct?
Yes, they have to operate as if a real bicycle, right side of the road, can't go over 20 miles an hour.
Okay, so, but if they look like a little motorcycle, I think you can get them on Lowe's right now, that's a big no-no.
Private
Even if they have a
property,
helmet on, okay.
can't be on the street.
I mean, they're pretty bad, there's like 4 or 5 of them going up and down my street, and I literally have, my neighbors, they know I'm the counselor, and they come and knock on my door, and they say, you know, look at this, because you've got them at like 10 o'clock at night. And
Probably
so-
trying to get to that area in the back.
They're going behind the building, and it's,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
So if they're not allowed on the streets, where are they allowed?
Private property. Can't register them, they don't have lights, they don't have signal lights, they need to have all the.
What kind of bike exactly are we talking about?
I
We're talking about gas powered,
Like little mini bikes,
but they're gas powered?
small wheels.
Yeah, they look like a motorcycle almost, sort of.
Well, there's two different types, there's an electric version.
That's what I meant.
No,
It's
this is,
like a-
this is gas powered.
So, okay, I'm sorry. What is illegal? If it goes over 20 miles an hour, if it's gas powered,
If it's, so she's talking about mini bikes, they're not, gas powered, not allowed on the street, they don't have, they need to, if they're operating a gas powered, motorcycle or mini bike would have to have lights, signal lights, it has to be registered. These don't have any of that on, so maybe a headlight of them, but they're not legal on the street.
Oh, okay, okay.
The electric bikes are a little bit different,
Makes sense.
there's different
They go just
classes,
as fast.
different speeds, but they need to operate on the same side as a pedal bike.
Okay, that makes sense, okay.
and they really are everywhere.
They are,
Well, because they're cheap and it's easy to get around in a small city like ours and,
they operate on both sides.
yeah, they operate all over.
Yeah.
See them all.
And that's fine, the bicycles are fine, it's these little, and they're so loud at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, it's ridiculous.
It's called, we'll try to catch it.
And the electric bikes are kind of scary too, though. Now, some of those go pretty fast.
They do go fast, it's 20 miles an hour on a bicycle fast.
And there's scooters too, and they tend to drive on the sidewalks more,
Yeah.
weaving in and out. I know they're really hard to see at night a lot of times. I know, I can't remember how many times I've seen somebody wearing real dark colored clothes, there's no light on
They
it,
should have a headlight in the tail, it's like a bicycle.
no reflective things at all. And, you know, they're going in and out of traffic, I'm surprised there hasn't been more accidents. I haven't seen any of the gas powered ones that you're talking about, Katie, but I have seen a lot of electric ones.
Yeah,
Some have the really
There's one of
big
those Coleman
tires.
motorbikes that we had on South Pass.
Okay.
Do you have any, information about whether or not those kinds of bikes are involved in accidents on the road? Like, or the cause of an accident?
I can find some, but off the top of my head, we haven't had, any that I'm aware of. We did have one a couple years, last year, up on Ruger Street, and that's someone that I'm aware of. But I mean, it's only time for that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Appreciate the effort, Council. Any other questions about items on the agenda?
Yeah, I would really.
Not many, but, you know.
I
not
wouldn't
many
mind
items,
a conversation on the 74105 Patterson Reservoir.
This is the item that Councilor Moore just asked about.
Oh, okay.
Yep, this is one of our water sources. This is work, maintenance work on the dam.
So, would you be able to get an update on, the upgrades that Clinton County Health Department identified that needed to be done at our water plant and how that work is coming along?
I believe we satisfied the majority of the stipulations that was set for the timeline. That valve was part of it. There's still work in progress like on the buildings and stuff that's still happening. That's in different phases of the WIA grant that we have. So we're still pursuing that. That'll be covered here in the next couple phases.
Would you be able to provide council with like a memo update of this is what the Clinton County Health Department said we needed to address and this is the status of that? Is that something you could provide to the council so that we know? I'm going purely on memory, but I seem to recall last year when we got that information, there were concerns about like low water levels, let's see, milfoil or something, there was something growing in the water. So can you give us an update on anything like that? at this
Yeah,
point?
the low water's going to be forever because the dam needs to be repaired to a point where New York State feels that it's safe. So we have it reduced. So that was that. And the milfoil it is what it is. It just grows in the lake. And we just noted it for as we had to. We operate, but it doesn't really control it. The only way to get rid of it is to pick it with like fibers that come in and pick it. It's very expensive and it doesn't work.
Okay.
The deal we could drain pond and dredge it, that's what it costs a lot of money to do. And as far as the water, it's gonna stay that way until we either repair it or take it down. But the majority of that stipulation has been taken care of from the health department from last year's.
Yeah, so, I would like to see a memo update
Okay.
when you can get one to us, just so we can see where we are with all of that. Okay, thank you.
We are also working with Clinton County Health Department to identify additional stipulations pertaining to water sourcing, distribution. As most folks know, we have a production well in play right now. There's a second production well that was drilled and tested. There's some regulatory things we're looking at there. But then, you know, in the next 2 or 3 phases of funding and projects will include bringing that production well number 2 online and then testing and sourcing from a third production well. Any other questions about items on the agenda? No? Reports, departmental reports? No? If there are none, we'll take a motion to adjourn. We'll adjourn for the next 10 minutes until the public hearing. Motion by Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor Net. All in favor?
Right.